Welcome back.
Well, I guess it's me that's the quick one then.
That's okay.
Oh, there's Brett.
Edie Bevan. I didn't feel like we were rushed, so.
No.
Hi, Brett.
How are you, Anne?
It's been like 3 years.
It's been so long. It's so good to see you.
Yeah, it's wonderful to see you too. You're good?
I'm good. Very good.
Good.
How about you?
Yep, doing okay.
Good.
And I learned yesterday that you might know my brother. I guess you guys did a show together, end of the tour?
We did. I didn't make the connection. Oh, he was a joy to work with.
Oh, good to hear.
We just didn't have any scenes together, which was totally frustrating. It was like 3 different, you know.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
It was great to work with. Yeah.
Let's see, maybe I should go find Chris.
You got lost?
I'll be right
Higher
back.
ego has gone running around.
Yes. I'll be right back.
All back. So let's go back. We're leaving.
Okay.
I didn't get to say, oh, leave room. Okay. Leave
Oh.
room. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Oh, no. Leave breakout room.
Leave. Breakout room.
How do you leave? Oh, no.
Click the bottom, it says leave room, and you have 2 options. Leave meeting or leave breakout room.
I don't have that option.
Do you have at the bottom right-hand side of your screen a blue button?
No.
Okay.
Well, maybe. Oh, leave room. There it is. There it is. Yes.
Yeah. It'll give you 2 options.
We're not all back yet.
That was scary. Sorry, I got trapped.
All right.
You were in an escape room.
Something, yeah. Okay, I'm going to close the rooms, Chris.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Everybody's obviously having fun, so that's good. Kate, while we're waiting for everybody, I think of you all the time because one of the last warm-up exercises I did when I was at Mount Union 2 years ago, I had started the exercise and I didn't explain it well enough, and you and Anjanette were walking around the room holding hands, and it was just like, I'll never forget that moment. I will never forget it. It was beautiful. All right, are we all met?
We not quite. We've got 10 seconds. We have some stragglers, but they should be here soon.
All right. Here they come. Thank you, Nikki. I'm gonna get some water.
Okay, Chris, get your water, but we are all back officially.
All right, great. So actually, I want to ask the last people that just showed up. Can I ask you, what was going on those last like 10, 15 seconds? Like, why were you gone more than everybody else?
Oh, we were having a little mini spy back. Sorry.
Nope.
It was a lively discussion.
We were having a
Great.
spy back, a private spy back, actually, Bohan.
You know, better than those like first year acting classes where you're like, okay, all right, let's have a spy back. And it's just like,
we were just getting to know each other, Chris. We spied back and we were just talking.
good.
Shooting
Great.
the breeze.
I am not accusing, I'm not like
The last
monitoring.
15 seconds were amazing.
Couldn't get back. So one question I want to ask first is, and this is a question I debate all the time as an acting teacher. So you created a score, right? Did you find our scores restrictive or freeing? And why? Nikki.
I thought this was funny that my partner and I picked the exact same score. We got into it, I was like, oh, we have the same exact score. But when we took away the physical action and just were internalizing it, it changed inherently because I was telling her at one moment I was supposed to rise after both of us fell, and it became an active pursuit to want to rise because I felt the polarity of the falling to the rising more.
Okay.
Really quickly, can I just interject? If you're not speaking, could I ask you to mute your selves? But we do have two questions. We have two hands raised. We have Jesse and Joe. Joe, let's have Jesse go first, then we'll get over to your question right afterwards. Go ahead, Jesse.
It wasn't really a question. It was more of like a spy back part of it, I guess. It was, I guess I found that because their response was not what I expected, it forced me to be more, to pay more attention to what was happening, right? So I might have been rising and expected them to rise with me. And if they didn't, then it was like, oh God, oh, okay. So then you have to adjust to that. And so I think that having the score makes you pay closer attention because it doesn't go the way you think it's supposed to go.
Great. Yeah, wonderful. Anybody, was there another hand raised?
There was another hand raised. Joe, did you have a question?
It's not a question. It's just a response to his question. Yeah, externally, when we were doing the movement, I was focused on their movement and what they were doing. So I'm like receiving, and it has the energy has an impulse and following that. And then internally, it was much different because I'm not so focused on their physical movement. More, I feel like the energy they were sending to me through the camera, and just like, I feel like that's when a story started to unfold amongst the relationship of me and the scene partners, or, you know, and it's more like, oh, wait, okay. And just following that impulse. And then at the end, like, oh, wow, something really happened without being so focused on their external movement. So I don't have a question on whether it's distracting or not. I think I'd have to spend more time with it to make a definitive impulse, but that's what I went through. So that's
Great.
it.
I really appreciate how hard we've all worked at GLMCC to really differentiate between archetypal and psychological, right? So rising on its own is archetypal, right? But as soon as you're receiving from someone else, you start adding a quality to it, which is what makes it psychological, right? So I have a plan, and if you've ever gone into an interview or tried to start a conversation with a loved one that you wanted to go in a certain direction or something, right? You had a plan on how that was going to go, right? But as you got into it and you received, you know, you were struggling with that plan, and that struggle is great, right? I'm supposed to be rising right now, but I just can't. But you're still rising through it, and that idea of polarity is so important. Great.
Anne has her hand raised.
Yeah, piggybacking off of what you just said, Chris, the idea of instead of assigning but discovering a quality, having a plan and having the limitation of what the sensation was going to be really freed up the discovery of the quality when I was responding to Jesse. So I appreciated that limitation. It didn't. It was beautiful. It felt like an act of defiance to fall when I fell, which was in response to something different that she did. But that made the quality just like so much more energized.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I love how people say about Michael Chekhov when they saw him perform. They say, I never thought the character would do that, right? But he makes it work, and I just think that's so beautiful that if you're in a play, the stakes are high enough, your characters may be doing things that they never thought they would do. And I think Michael Chekhov just leans into that, right? If he picks something archetypal, every night it's going to be psychological depending on engaging. The one thing I love hearing you all say, especially on Zoom, is that like I'm taking from the other person. Right? Whatever they do dictates what I do. And that's what makes acting fun. It's like, I don't have to do anything, right? I just have to listen to you and respond. Any other spy back thoughts?
We have a hand raised from Sarah.
Okay.
Hey, yeah. So I think this is an interesting question because I feel like I deal with this a lot of how much should be pre-planned or scored out and how much can we just be in the moment, whatever. I mean, generally I feel like having the score is helpful in an exercise like this when you're learning what the sensations are and trying to follow the sensations, right? And so it's almost, to me, like the score comes first. The score is like your scene study work, right? What is the objective? What is my action? But then, and then the score is like the checkoff work is then moving through and actually activating those actions, right? In a full-bodied way, so that then once you get to, say, scene work, you can let it all go and just respond in the moment, you know? So it's like, I think some people said this where it's like, it's nice to have, you know, an idea coming in of like, I'm gonna come in with my rise energy, right? But then if my partner doesn't respond to that rise energy, if I continue to push the rise, I'm not really probably listening to them, right? So I think, you know, it's that double-edged sword of, yeah, I think the score is totally helpful, especially as a teaching tool when you're learning what these are. And then I feel like there's a way to let it go once you've practiced, you know. I don't know. That's just what came to my mind.
Jeff, did you have a spy back? Or Chris, did you want to respond first? Sorry.
No, I'd love to hear other people respond, actually.
Well, I think Jeff had his hand raised. Jeff, are you there?
Yes, I am. My question, Chris, is that I understand the difference between the archetypal and the psychological on the rising and on the falling. I wonder if you could speak a little bit about the qualities that would make the balancing psychological in terms of quality.
Gosh, it's balancing to me is the most difficult one, right? Because it's somewhat the most static. But what kind of quality, right? You know, it's just that it's the middle place. I'm not sure how to answer, right?
Can I jump in?
Oh, yeah, Ava, thank you.
I actually think that balancing takes so much effort because it's this like you're trying to either rise or you're going to like give into falling. You're trying to find balance even though you are balancing. And so I think any qualities you could attach to it could be frantically balancing, right? It could be, you know, calmly balancing, right? I think that there's, you know, you could attach any qualities to it because I think that it's about, I feel like balancing is about actually struggle. You know what I mean? Because it's the push and pull between two things and it's about gravity. I don't know if that's helpful.
It's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. And just to real quickly go back to Sarah's point about, you know, finally getting that place where you're in it, right? You know, hopefully, Sarah, someday you and I get to act together. And for the first, you know, 3 or 4 performances, we've been using our score. But then one night, instead of embracing, you're going to penetrate. And I'm going to be like, okay, we're on, right? But I think at the end of the day, if we really look at the entirety of a performance, more than likely every night, we're going to stay in a pretty clear structure, right? We're not all of a sudden going to do a new play, right? But, you know, what you said is something I say a lot, right? Is like, if I come into the scene and I'm rising and you're not rising with me, what happens is every night you're going to give me a new quality, right? So tomorrow night when you come into the play, exact same scene, you've chosen rising, right? The rising you did last night didn't work. You didn't get what you wanted. So tonight when I enter the scene, the quality of my rising has to be different because I got to get you where I want you. And to me, that's the strength of the difference between archetypal and psychological. is my archetypal structure is always the same, but how I give it to you is totally in what are the given circumstances we have tonight. So
That's a really good explanation, Chris, of the difference between the archetypal and the psychological. I think that's really good. And I have to say, I like your choice of shirt.
oh, thank you. Francis picked out the color. So. Kate.
Okay, let's see if I can put this into a question. So when we have an action on somebody, that's a psychological gesture, something I'm doing to you. And when I do something, it creates a sensation.
In you and me, yeah.
And we radiate the sensation.
Yes.
So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what sensation is going to happen, do I?
Nope. Nope. If I stand up right now and I do a penetrate,
yeah,
it's just, I'm going to be open. My actor's ideal center, I say it's a tuning fork, right? So the way I execute the gesture, whether it's staccato, legato, whatever quality happens to come out, that tuning fork is going to radiate perfectly. So tonight when I'm on stage with you, if I do a penetrate, tomorrow night, I know I'm going to do penetrate, but I'm going to be open to what the sensation I get from it.
So we wouldn't necessarily want to score sensations.
No.
But in this exercise, it's helpful and it's interesting. But I think we're
because we-
talking about two different sensations. If I'm hearing this correctly, you're talking about sensations with a little s, Kate. I think.
No, I'm asking about the big S though. Would we score the big S?
So yeah, so this is even. I mean, it's double. No. So you need to think about these sensations as archetypal, right? You're just going to rise, but it's going to have its own quality. Yeah. I actually like to use these when I'm getting deeper into scene work with actors, using rising and falling and balancing on beat changes, right? So you and I have just been psychological gesture back and forth. When we come to that beat change, where am I? Right? I am rising, and that's going to affect the way that I play my next gesture, right?
Okay.
So that's like putting two together. Yeah, but that's the difficulty. Thank you, Ava, for pointing that out, right? So yeah, you know, and it's the reason why at GLMCC, when we're doing psychological gesture work, we ask you to execute the gesture and stay there for a moment and really radiate before you do anything. That moment that we're asking you is that moment to receive the sensation, right? The reason we don't have you go, hey, is because you're not letting a sensation come to you, right? What does this action, what does it do to my tuning fork, right?
It makes me rise.
Right? Or whatever, right? And you have to be open to receive from the gesture's the tool to make your tuning fork sing. And if you're speaking and gesturing at the same time, you're not allowing the tuning fork to sing.
But the rising is the singing.
To me today, the rising is the archetypal action.
Okay.
Right? So Kathy gave me a falling on what? My what was a rising, right? But I did it based on what she gave me. So that rising with a capital S is going to have a different small s sensation. Yeah.
Okay, I'll think about it.
Well,
Thank
to
you.
Think of it, we can rename this.
The simple answer is you do not want to score how you're going to feel. You're
Thank you.
always scoring what you're going to do.
Right. That was my question.
Yeah. And to get back to Sarah's point, right? If I do my homework as an actor and I score my script and I physically execute these psychological gestures, when I get on stage, they're gonna be there.
Yeah.
They're just gonna happen.
They just happen.
Yeah.
Can I interject really quickly that one of the things that I use as a teacher is we say three sisters, which is sometimes referred to as the sensations, so that we minimize the double use of that word. So use one of the sisters, which will create a sensation with a little s. And Chris, the tuning fork is fabulous because I use that musical expression as well. That the radiating, when we want to get to the sweet spot, is the resonance of the tuning fork. That image of the sound coming from my actor ideal center and letting it radiate towards the person. And a tuning fork for a musician, it's gold.
Yeah. Actually, if I could ask Kathy Albers.
Yes.
Could you just real quickly talk to us about what you said about breath in our work with Melinda, and what did you say about breath?
I said that when I was using the sensations and I was rising or falling or balancing, it was the breath was just pushing it through my body and helped that radiation. And if I didn't breathe, it wasn't there. I learned that when I was doing it the first time in my breakout session. But if I really allowed the breath to come into the body, then my rising was really rising. And I felt such a huge difference because the breath just pushes it all the way through the body. And that tuning fork just hums.
Mm-hmm.
It's great exercise. I really like it.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's just about 5 o'clock. So if no one else has anything to say, love the tuning fork image. Yes. Yes, it's fabulous. Anyone else?
GLTC for this experience. Thank you very much. It was wonderful.
Thank
you all.
I hope to be in the same room with all of you next summer.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Chris.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Catherine.
Bye.
Nice meeting you all.
Brett, thank
Yes,
you.
you
Nice
too.
to meet you, John.
Bye, Joe.
Take care.
Bye. Hi, Melinda.
Hi.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, bye.
Bye.
John. Bye, Ann.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
Thanks. Bye. People are leaving.
Just me and
Bye.
Ava and James and Kathy. I was waiting for this. I'm kidding. I love you guys.
I'm going to leave.
Bye, everybody.
I love you all.
Bye.